How you doing, Duff here? It's time for another automotive project. I'm sitting in the passenger seat of my 2005 Chevy SSR. Today's project is going to be removing the dash and the instrument cluster. And the reason for that is... Basically, the SSRs have a problem with, they're called stepper motors that are used in the instrument cluster. They go bad, and when they go bad, you get bad readings, they stick, they don't work at all. So it's a common problem. So I'm going to be pulling mine out and sending it off to a very nice person in the SSR Fanatics group that has volunteered to fix my problem for basically parts and very little labor. So I'm going to be pulling it apart. First thing you got to do, I've taken the dash apart quite a bit because of doing the stereo work. So you got to pull these knobs off, and they literally just pull off. Okay, next thing that comes off is these plastic trim pieces here. I have these trim tools that are used to minimize the damage you do in this kind of stuff. I would recommend that you look into something like this. These literally just press in once you get started and just kind of pull it out the whole way. Okay, that one's out. And then there's a small one on the driver's side as well. Okay. Alright, once you have those pieces out, that's where you expose the screws that you need to take off. So let me get my sockets out. Okay, these are 7mm screws. I'm just using a socket attachment on my screwdriver. There's a total of 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait, I'm sorry, 4. And then there's a 5th one over there. If I get to take out, you'll see some of these are actually for the bottom of the dash, which you shouldn't have to mess with, so I'm going to leave all those in place. Okay, here's that 5th screw I was telling you about. I have the other 4 out. Okay, here's a very important tip, especially if this is the first time that you've ever gotten into your dash on your SSR. It's really good to do this when it's warm outside. Even better if you have the top down and the sun has been allowed to hit the dash pad or dash panel, the front dash panel, for a little bit. It softens it up and it makes things much easier, which is especially important when you're going to put it back together, because you have to be able to kind of bend this a little bit. But as far as getting it off right now, up top here there's a seam that is basically just clips again, which you can use your tool here. Get it started. Okay, I'm going to put this down for a second. This airbag cover is going to be your major source of problems. So I'm going to set the camera down so you can kind of see me work my way around that. Yeah. So you're just kind of popping this through here. Once you have that cleared out, everything else comes off pretty easy. Couple snaps. I forgot one other thing you need to do before you pull this out is put your tilt steering at the lowest position, otherwise it kind of holds it in. See, there you go. Okay, I need 2 hands. Okay, here you see my front dash cover removed. A couple things of note. Ooh. These vent covers, or these vents, the little fins in there are very easy to knock out if you're not paying attention. As you can tell, I'm missing a few of them from various dash removal processes. And also this area around the airbag, you can see that I've actually taken a Dremel and I've cut it back. I've removed some of the extra plastic around here to make it easier to get the panel off and back on. So that might be something you want to do if this is the first time you've ever had your dash apart. Okay, so this is the part that I've never done before, is actually removing the instrument cluster. It looks to me like there's 4 screws. 1, 2, and then 2 down low here. See that? It's hard to do light. Whoops. It's hard to do light and filming at the same time. 3, and then another one over there. They look like they're 7mm screws, just like everything else. I did read online that they recommend that you have a magnet tool, because these ones up top, if you're not careful, you could drop it, you know, once you back it out. So I'm going to have my magnet nearby so it grabs the screw for me. And I'm not going to film and do this at the same time. Okay, I was able to get those bottom 2 out easily with my screwdriver setup, but those top 2 I can't get on the screws flush because of the angle there. So I'm going to have to mess around with my various sockets to find a combo that works here. Okay, there's been a lot of aggravation between when I stopped last and now. These bolts or screws are at such an angle that, you know, you can't get a straight on shot at it. So I've been trying various things to get to it. Oh, that's so close. I'm going to get a little bit further yet. These are already loose, so I think that this dash was already out, or this cluster was out at one point already. And I see why it wasn't tightened all the way up top, because it's a royal pain in the ass. So basically what I'm doing is I'm using a rig like this. I have an angle or an elbow for my socket, and even though these are 7mm screws, I'm using an 8mm since I can't get flush on it, so I can just get on it enough to try to turn it. So I'm going to continue futzing with this till I get these 2 screws out. Okay, this one is good. Okay, got it. Magnetic tool, very important. Now the other one. Okay, after much futzing around, there you go. That one's loose. Should be able to grab it with my magnet. Okay, there is that other bastard. That was more difficult than I expected. Okay, so you're supposed to drop the steering column down again, and then there's a connector back here that I need to pop loose. I'm going to set the camera down to do this. Okay, the connector is up at the top there of the cluster. So you want to make sure that you release it by pressing the connector, the wire connector, and not just yanking on wires, because then once you pull wires out, you're in deep shit. So just carefully find the release for the connector and disconnect it. Okay, there you have a dash with no instrument cluster. Removing it was a challenge, not quite as much of a challenge as getting those 2 top screws out, but you have to squeeze these connectors, or these releases, top and bottom, while tugging out to release it. I read the best practice is also, while you have it apart, you might as well spray some electrical contact cleaner in here, just to make the connections as good as possible. Right here you see my cluster, which I will be sending out for repair. And once I get it back, I guess I'll document putting it back together. Although it is just the reverse process, but sometimes that can be even more challenging. So until next time, Duffman out.